Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Trump has said that Venezuela will turn over 15 million barrels of oil. U.S. crude futures fell 1.3% to $56.3 per dollar per barrel after the announcement. White House says U.S. discusses range of options to acquire Greenland, including use of military. Trump says he has a good relationship with Indian Prime Minister Modi, but he has highlighted Modi's displeasure over 50% of U.S. tariffs on Indian linked to Russian oil purchases. He warned tariffs could rise further if India does not address Washington's concerns. China says U.S. actions dealt blow to Venezuela economic and social order, threatened stability of global production industry chain. Reports suggest the deceased Hindu journalist Rana Pratap Bairagi, who was shot dead in Bangladesh, had been paying protection money for months. A Saudi-led coalition says that it had undertaken limited preemptive strikes in Yemen to stop UAE-backed secessionists from escalating the conflict. China is reviewing Meta's $2 billion purchase of AI firm Manus over possible technology export control issues, a move that could give Beijing leverage over the deal. NVIDIA's CEO confirms that China won't make any formal announcement about approving imports of NVIDIA's H200 chips. Now for this hour, we start with Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has arrived in Cyprus as the Mediterranean nation takes over the presidency of the European Union Council. The visit comes just a day after high-stakes talks in France, where Zelenskyy met European leaders, U.S. envoys, and key allies. The discussions focused on finalizing security guarantees for Ukraine as part of a potential peace deal. In Paris, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, and Zelenskyy signed a declaration of intent to deploy a multinational force in Ukraine. Britain and France plan to establish military hubs across Ukraine to support post-war reconstruction and respond to any attacks. For the first time, the United States has offered to back this force, a move European leaders say could change the game. In Cyprus, Zelenskyy will be meeting President Nikos Christodoulides, Archbishop Georgios. Later, he will also hold joint talks with European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Zelenskyy will also attend the opening ceremony of Cyprus's EU Council presidency. Now for this discussion, we welcome Professor Rohan Gunaratna. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us once again. Before we start focusing on Cyprus and Ukraine right now, can you tell us a little bit about what has happened in yesterday's talks with Zelenskyy and the European leaders and the allies, including U.S.?
Asma, it's very good to see you.
Thank
What
you.
we are seeing is that the Europeans and the Americans now want to work together to build up capabilities, a multinational capability on Ukrainian soil, so that the Russians will know that there is unity among Europe and also very close cooperation with the US. But at the same time, that is going to lead to an escalation on the part of the Russians. What is so important is to show that the Europeans are united, but at the same time, to tell the Russians that there is not going to be a heavy European or NATO buildup of forces on the European side of the Russian border.
Right. So now, once again, how aligned are these countries, including U.S., with Ukraine?
US is determined to resolve the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, meaning also the conflict between Russia and Europe. But at the same time, one must understand that the Russians, they are very concerned about the presence of NATO on the European side of the Russian border. So the at the end, if there's going to be a resolution to this dispute between Russia and Ukraine or Russia and Europe, that means there needs to be a greater understanding on the part of the Europeans that the Russian invasion of Ukraine was a direct result of a NATO buildup in Ukraine.
Thank you for highlighting that. And Professor, lastly, uh, why is Zelenskyy headed to Cyprus at this timing, and also he's supposed to be meeting a lot of important people, including the European delegation?
European leaders are meeting, which is a routine meeting with the presidency of the Europe moving to Cyprus. But Zelenskyy's presence is going to focus on greater European participation to defend Europe and to strengthen Ukraine. But at the same time, they must look at the bigger picture, whether Europeans working together against Russia is going to escalate or de-escalate the fight. Certainly, it will escalate. What is so important is to think, to develop what you call a far-reaching leadership to resolve that conflict between Ukraine and Russia. If not, the conflict will spread more widely into the rest of Europe.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that situation right now, Professor. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving the focus to Asia, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning has said that the country had taken legal measures in response to Japan's actions, including a ban on dual-use goods exports to Japan. The dispute began late last year when Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi stated that a Chinese attack on Taiwan could be considered as an existential threat to Japan. China views Taiwan as part of its territory, a claim that the island rejects, and demanded that Takaichi retreat her remarks. Her refusal has triggered a series of countermeasures. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson has called Takaichi's comments erroneous and urged Japan to address the root cause of the issue. She has added that China's actions are fully legitimate, reasonable, and lawful, designed to safeguard national security and comply with international obligations. Dual-use items cover goods, software, and technologies that serve both civilian and military purposes. They include rare earth elements that are crucial for drones and semiconductor chips. Let's listen into what the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson has shared.
高市早苗首相涉台错误言论，侵害中国主权和领土完整，公然干涉中国内政，对中方发出武力威胁。为了维护国家安全和利益，履行防扩散等国际义务，中方依法依规采取措施，完全正当、合理、合法。我们敦促日方正视问题根源，反思纠错，撤回高市早苗首相的错误言论。
Now for this discussion, we welcome back Professor Rohan Gunaratna. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Singapore. Thank you very much, Professor, for staying with us. Now looking at this, this has been escalating, and now how this, again, another restriction towards Japan from China. How has this further escalated the relationship to straining their relationship further, and how will this latest, ban on dual-use exports how will this be affecting Japan?
Suma, you explained very clearly about dual-user technology. So as you said, dual-user technology, they are civilian commercial goods, but in the hands of military force can enhance military capabilities, military dominance very significantly. So what we are seeing is that the Chinese taking action against Japan, because after the new Prime Minister of Japan has now asserted her position very closely aligned with Trump, the Beijing is very concerned about Japan building capabilities to fight in the event of a Chinese intervention in Taiwan, that Japan will support Taiwan. And in this context, the Chinese have taken these measures. It is very likely that the fight between the discord between China and Japan will escalate. Already there are many diplomatic fights between these two countries at the UN and elsewhere, but certainly this will escalate. The Japanese are also building very significant military capabilities to prevent Chinese expansion, but at the same time, the Chinese have taken various measures to circumvent Japanese measures and build their capabilities. So in South China Sea and East China Sea, the Chinese are building their capabilities in many ways in preparation to intervene in Taiwan in the coming years. And the Japanese are very concerned about it. And Tokyo itself is building military capabilities to confront Chinese expansion.
Thank you for highlighting that. With that, I would like to thank Professor Rohan Gundatna for joining us from Singapore and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move the focus on to Iran. Iran's top judge, Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei, has warned that anyone taking part in or supporting riots faces no excuse, saying that their actions align with enemies of the Islamic Republic. Let's listen in.
کسانی که امروز یا در اغتشاشات رسما میان توی خیابون و یا اونها رو هدایت میکنن یا اونها رو پشتیبانی کنن یا کمک میکنن، با این اعلام صریح موضع رژیم جنایتکار صهیونی و همچنین رئیس جمهور جنایتکار آمریکا، مسائلی که گفتن اگر کسی بیاد توی خیابون برای اغتشاش، برای ناامنی، اگر کسی پشتیبانی کنه اونها را، هیچ عذری دیگه برای اونها باقی نیست. مسئله خیلی واضح و روشن شده در راستای دشمن.
The unrest began on December 28th, triggered by a sharp fall in the Iranian currency and rising inflation, according to local media. At least 27 people have passed away amid clashes between protesters and security forces. U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have expressed support for Iranian protesters, prompting warnings from senior Iranian officials that foreign interference could fuel chaos. Deputy Police Chief Ahmad Reza Radan has distinguished between lawful protest and rioting, promising to ensure security for peaceful demonstrators while confronting those behind violent acts. Let's listen in.
اعتراض با اغتشاش تفاوت داره. ما در حقیقت برای کسانی که اعتراض به حق و قانونی دارند وظیفه ایجاد امنیت و انجام امنیت داریم. ما با اطمینان خاطر به مردم عزیزمون قول میدیم تا نفر آخر اغتشاشگران رو باشون برخورد میکنیم، تا نفر آخر بازنشر دهندگان رو باشون برخورد میکنیم و امنیت را در کنار قوه قضاییه دوستانمون در حوزه‌های امنیتی برای مردم با همکاری مردم انجام میدیم و
Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Takaichi. He's a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us once again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, how does Iran's leadership justify their hardline stance of those who are accused of participating? You know, is it different from like democratic countries, their distinction between lawful protest and rioting?
Good afternoon, Asoma. Thank you for inviting me for your show. Yes, there is a huge distinction and difference between the rule of law in democratic countries and that of what is going on in Iran. They cannot justify with the democratic values, because if the Supreme Court has given a judgment that the government is going to confront the protest of the civilians, well, then it is against the rule of law, as far as the international rules-based international order is concerned. So therefore, they cannot justify at any cost. Second thing, that when you look into the demands and aspiration of the people, they are not demanding anything artificial. This is a natural demand of the people to take control of the price rise, and the value of real, the real value has dropped by 1.4 million in just about a year's time. A year back, the value of real against the dollar, US dollar, was around 770,000 reals per dollar. Now it has dropped to 1.4 million reals. So therefore the cost of living and the livelihood, unemployment is rising, price rise is there, and there is a huge shortfall in the basic requirement of Maslow's theory. That is, you talk about the physiological needs, the food, the water, the electricity, all are either not available or the prices have gone up, shot through the roof. Back to you, Asuma.
Right. Please, Major General, stay with us as we have more developments coming in from Iran for about this, the protests taking place. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has ordered security forces not to crack down on economic protests, stressing a clear distinction between peaceful demonstrators and armed rioters. The directive was confirmed Wednesday after a cabinet meeting in a video released by Iran's state media. Vice President Mohammad Jafar Ghaimpane has said that the president has instructed that no security action be taken against lawful protesters. Ghaimpane has said that individuals using firearms, knives, or machetes, or attacking police stations and military sites would be treated as rioters rather than protesters. Once again, we welcome back retired Major General Takaichi for this discussion. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Now, you know, like in our building on your last answer, you rightfully mentioned that this is not just one. It's not just because of one reason. There's several other reasons because of these. Can you highlight what else is fueling this, and how angry are the people in Iran right now with their government, and is this the right way that government is tackling these protesters?
Okay, your question has got three subparts. Let me tackle the last one first. Is this the best way the government is to tackle? I think only saving grace in Iran today is the president himself, who has given the right judgment and right decision not to confront the unarmed rioters or the protesters. I think he is making a very sensible, giving a sensible direction to the security interface of the apparatus. But I don't think the government is going to follow that. Most probably, they are already confronting, and as on today, we have 25 provinces out of 31 where the protests in a smaller to bigger size is actually demonstrated on the ground. They are manifesting in some in violent form and some in non-violent form. The best way to tackle this is talk, which President in the earlier messages in past 48 hours had indicated that they would be getting in touch with the rioters or the protesters and having a dialogue with them. But I think the dialogue is also not working out. So coming to the second point of your question, how is it? Is there anything behind this? I suspect there is a foul play. When I say this, foul play, it has happened in the past. America and Israel both have been giving statements in the orientation of a regime change or planning for a military attack, and juxtaposed by the anticipated military attack could be that the Mossad and the CIA, they have triggered a kind of a protest. The protest may have taken place. There is a resentment. It has not happened overnight. It has been building up for past nearly 1 year or so. But to pick up momentum of this kind, I feel it makes me suspect that there is some kind of external support to the protesters who are instigating and provocating against the government. And coming now to the first point, what could be the objective and the aim? The ultimate objective of Israel and USA are twofold. One, they do not want Iran to go nuclear. The enrichment status, they are looking at those 400 kgs of enriched uranium. Where are they missing? A few months back, it was suspected that 400 kgs of uranium has moved out of Iran, but now the indications are coming, they are still there inside Iran. And also one more point which is connected to this is that the supreme leader, the cleric, has given a clearance for the nuclear scientists to go ahead and make the nuclear warhead. He has been flip-flopping. At times he says that yes, we are going ahead with the nuclear warhead because if we have a nuclear warhead, then they will not be subjected to this kind of attack. And a day later, he also went on to say, coming through open source media, that he was responding to Israel and USA together, that they are nowhere close to the nuclear weapon, they have no intention. So these kind of double talks are taking place from the supreme leader. And the second thing which is happening is that America and Israel together, they would like to carry out military attack to prevent Iran from going nuclear, one, and number two, somehow or the other, this attack is going to be very, very strong, and it will be aiming to carry out either assassination of the supreme leader or make sure that he flees Iran, like the way if he doesn't flee, then
Yes.
maybe he is going to be captured and there may be a regime change. So these are the objectives. I thought I must respond to your question in this manner, please. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Major General, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we move the focus on to India and Pakistan. Now, moving on to our next news, newly accessed U.S. government filings reportedly reveal an extraordinary lobbying campaign by Pakistan in Washington, as it sought to hold India's military Operation Sindoor in May 2025. Documents reviewed by Indian media show that Pakistani diplomats and defense officials requested more than 50 meetings with senior U.S. administration officials and lawmakers. The outreach by Pakistani diplomats was carried out between the launch of the operation and the full ceasefire after a terror attack allegedly sponsored by Pakistan jolted Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam in April 2025. Records filed under the U.S. Foreign Agents Registration Act indicate Pakistan's ambassador and defense envoy contacted over 60 officials and intermediaries by email, phone, and in-person meetings. According to Indian media reports, discussions spanned Congress, the Pentagon, the U.S. State Department, and influential U.S. media outlets. Indian media claims that the talks covered Kashmir, regional security, rare earth minerals, and broader bilateral ties. Sources say that the lobbying surge follows contracts that were signed by Islamabad in November last year with 6 Washington lobbying firms, worth around $5 million annually. Attempts were made to secure access to the Trump administration and favorable trade and diplomatic outcomes. Moreover, weeks after Pakistan partnered with Saidin Law LLP and Javelin Advisors, U.S. President Donald Trump also hosted Pakistani Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir at the White House in 2025. This signaled renewed ties between the U.S. and Pakistan at the highest levels. Now we welcome back retired Major General Takaichi. He's a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, what strategic implication does Pakistan's extensive lobbying campaign in Washington have for India's diplomatic, also military calculus?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Asuma. You have asked strategic implications of Pakistan lobbying against India in USA, in Washington. The strategic implication is that Pakistan, as on today, is a very weak nation, economically, militarily, constitutionally, politically, and diplomatically as well. It is by the support of China, which China has just reaffirmed its commitment to support Pakistan in all possible dimensions just about a day and a half back, and USA being getting closer to Pakistan, because Pakistan knows for sure that as on today it is in no position to actually contest or defend itself from any kind of onslaught coming from India in any form. Therefore, under the circumstances, the devastation which has been unleashed against Pakistan during Operation Sindoor Phase 1 by India will require some time for Pakistan to recoup, reappraise itself, reorganize, rebalance its forces, and redeploy effectively so that it can deter India. India, as on today, after the Delhi blast, which was a kind of a tip of the iceberg, which indicated that it was perhaps planned to be as part of a serial blast to be conducted in multiple cities, simply coinciding with 6th of December, last December, that is Ayodhya Masjid, collapse of Ayodhya Masjid, and also Putin's visit. Somehow it was prematurely detected by Indian intelligence agencies, and I would say that plan was busted effectively. So with that busting, whatever pointers are coming in the open source, they definitely are pointing towards Pakistan, but India wants to be slow but sure-footed. If it actually, without any ambiguity, points towards Pakistan, then that strategic doctrine of India is going to apply. The strategic doctrine of India is an act of terror will be treated as an act of war. If that actually holds good, it will be subject to based on some tangible evidence which is derived from the ongoing investigation. I am given to understand from the open sources that India definitely has got lots of substantive evidences behind the Delhi blast, and going along with a change in doctrine to what I just shared, they are rightfully going to go in for Operation Sindoor 2. If Operation Sindoor 2 takes place, it may take place in different form, at different place, at different time. If that happens, then Pakistan is no position. The strategic implication, as far as my understanding goes, it is simply to deter India by getting substantive support from countries like USA, and also seeking intervention from America, so that America speaks to India, and with their intervention, perhaps they are hopeful that India would be prevented from launching any kind of offensive action against Pakistan based on the evidences which are mustered or marshaled from the ongoing investigations going on post Delhi blast. Back to you, Asuma.
Right. So lastly, Major General, how should India assess the impact of these things and renewed high-level US-Pakistan engagement?
Excellent question, Asuma. India is doing its part. I, as a retired general, I am not privy to what the present dispensation is doing, but I can put my feet in the shoes. I have also been in the strategic advisor level. So my take on the issue is that government of India should adopt a short, medium and long-term approach to such kind of provocations. One. Number two, even though there is a strategic realignment of geopolitics going on based on the National Security Strategy 2025 of USA, wherein USA has adopted gravitating away from geopolitics to geoeconomics, mindful of the fact that it's in heavy debt, 130%, 128 to 130% of debt to GDP ratio, 38 trillion US dollar of debt. It means a huge money required for interest servicing. Plus, it is gone in for clear indication of
Yes.
G3, I would say, USA, Russia and China. Russia has been told in no uncertain terms that you mind your business, do not look across Atlantic, buzz off from Cuban waters or Caribbean or Latin America. So has China. China has been indicated to do anything and everything they wish to. and they will not have an eyebrows raised from USA as far as Taiwan is concerned. So Donald Trump couldn't care a damn about the TRA 1979. So as far as he is concerned, when the Russian vessels were popped up sometime in April 2025, consequent to signing of the strategic military partnership between Cuba and Russia, after the long-range missiles were supplied by USA to Ukraine, thereafter there are jitters. There is an existential threat which is being posed by these vessels, and thereafter the national security strategy has come in, and therefore America is going absolutely, I would say, on a proactive double down kind of effort to keep the Monroe Doctrine under a different name, although under its domain. Otherwise America itself is going to be threatened. So hence, after Venezuela, some people are saying Greenland could be the next option. I take that the Colombia perhaps would be the next target. So under these circumstances, India would do well to calibrate its approach, not fall trap into the provocation, do not be drawn in for a long-drawn conflict. Long-drawn conflict is the one which forces inimical to India's existence are interested. They want to bleed India to death by pulling it into a long-drawn kind of a war and retard our economic growth. So India has to accordingly calibrate its approach and respond to the threats which are emerging. Back to you, Asuma.
Thank you for laying it all out there for us, Major General Takaichi. With that, I would like to end this discussion. Now we move on to our next news. A severe winter weather has caused this major disruption at Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport, one of Europe's busiest hubs. Airport authorities say at least 700 flights were cancelled on Wednesday due to heavy snow and strong winds. The disruptions follow several days of weather-related travel problems across the region. More than 1,000 passengers were forced to spend the night inside of the airport as conditions worsened. Schiphol has said that it set up camp beds and provided breakfast for stranded travelers, while staff worked to manage overcrowding and delays. Airport officials warned that the number of cancellations is likely to increase through the day as weather conditions remain unstable. Passengers have been advised to check flight statuses closely and expect further delays. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.